stop tolerating inferior relationships. I was having a conversation with a one-on-one client yesterday, and we were talking about the idea of becoming more selective in terms of who we invest our energy with, be that the type of woman you eventually want to be with, or men. He realized, I find myself being less interested in general social conversations if there's not either a woman that I'm interested in or a man that I can actually see myself vibing with. And I was saying that's exactly what's supposed to happen. So today I want to make a twofold argument. I want to talk about two levels of your development in terms of relationships. And the first stage, it's not the last one, but the first stage is that you have to become way more selective and way more ruthless in terms of cutting out the wrong people. Because if you realize that you develop your communication skills and you become an effective and authentic communicator to the extent that you're able to attract women, so you can choose the right woman and get the right girlfriend, life partner, or wife, and also that you can convey your personality in a way that other men will find it not necessarily attractive, but interesting to the extent that they want to spend time with you, then you do end up investing less in the wrong people, and you'll become more in tune. And you'll quickly realize, this person probably isn't right for me. And you will lose more interest in general social interactions if it's with the wrong people. And that's exactly what's supposed to happen. Because you'll realize that 9 out of 10 men you will meet as a man, I'm just gonna make sure that I'm not getting eaten up by wasps here, that 9 out of 10 men you'll meet, you won't have enough in common with. The compatibility between the two of you won't be high enough for it to form a friendship or a business relationship eventually. And probably 19 out of 20. And if you realize that and you're actually increasing your standard, you're raising your standard in terms of what you expect from a relationship, the degree of compatibility you must have before you're willing to pursue this any further, be that in an intimate context, in a friendship context, or in a business context, well, if you increase that standard, then most people will fall to the wayside. How do you say that? Most people won't make the cut. And so naturally, you will be less interested in talking to most people. That is absolutely fine. 9 out of 10 people you'll meet, you won't want to have a relationship with. And even just understanding that can create so much peace, because it means you don't have to get along with everybody. There is a second layer coming, another evolution of consciousness, so to speak, another mindset that's very useful to adopt. But let's stick on this one for a second. It is perfectly okay to not get along with most people, in fact, because if you're a typical nice guy, and you, which I was as well, and again, this nice guy thing is such a, the way society and this whole masculinity movement is talking about nice guys, I don't really love that, because it shows that being nice is somehow bad. You're supposed to be nice, you're supposed to be kind, but not fake. So most of the clients that come to me, right, men between 30 and 50, good careers, business owners, they tend to be really warm and kind. So warm and kind that they feel the need to get along with everybody. Perhaps you've made that experience as well. I remember very vividly actually at my wedding. It's funny, the day after my wedding, I was extraordinarily stressed and I had a really bad time because I married somebody who wasn't right for me, but I wasn't listening to the parts within me. My full story is explained in a different YouTube video. But even on my wedding, I clearly remember I felt the need to smile. And it's interesting when you listen to David Goggins, he's a former Navy SEAL, ultra marathon runner. People ask him, why don't you smile? Because I don't have to. And obviously, in one way, you can make a counter argument to that, but it also makes sense. Because I felt the need that I had to smile. I felt pressure to smile. I wasn't allowing myself to even just look stoically. That's how validation and approval seeking I was in a general social context, and especially with women, or the woman that was my wife at the time. Somebody who was not a bad person at all, but we just weren't compatible. I felt the need to smile all the time, and eventually I got exhausted because it fatigues you. If you have to put on a show, if you have to pretend to experience emotions you're actually not experiencing, I wasn't even allowing myself to be stoic and to just have a normal, calm look on my face, because when people smiled at me, I immediately felt the need to smile back. And this exhausts you. It is so exhausting to keep up this facade. And so in the beginning, what you need to learn is you need to actually become more disagreeable. You need to become more okay with conflict. You need to seek it out actually a little bit. That doesn't mean that you don't have to be kind, that you need to be a dickhead about it, not at all. But seeking conflict in a calibrated manner, not shying away from it, is a very vital step in your evolution as a man. Now, you can take that to an extreme where you go looking for conflict everywhere. That's not the aim of the game either, right? and I'm going to touch on the counterpoint to that in a second when we talk about the second level of development, so to speak. But you have to become okay with 9 out of 10 people not actually liking you. If you were to radically honestly communicate your opinions, your values, your beliefs, most people wouldn't agree with that. And that's perfectly fine, because remember, there's only 2 types of relationships in life, long-term and short-term. And most of the joy you'll ever experience comes from long-term relationships. But in order to figure out whether you're actually right for each other, whether there actually is a sufficient degree of compatibility to make that relationship work, to enjoy each other's time, you have to be radically honest, because guess what is not going to happen when you communicate your opinions radically honestly? And you make a joke that's not politically correct, and there's compatibility between you and the person that you're making the joke in front of. The person won't get offended. If you're actually compatible and the person has a similar type of humor, has the same values, well, the person will actually like you more. Because you don't just bond over what you both like, you also bond over what you both dislike. Now, that is not to say that you need to create a false enemy so you both have something to bond over. Most of what you focus on, or what you actually create compatibility towards, should be positive things, of course. But understanding that these are things we stand against, because values doesn't just mean I stand for something, it also means I stand against something, right? And having certain values in common, in the sense of I am against whatever, I really love free speech, okay? Anybody who pretends that getting offended is a real thing, or that people shouldn't get offended, is nonsense, you know? Like, I'm not here to impose my views upon you, but I think we all should have the freedom to express ourselves super freely, be super kind and nice. But if people easily get offended, well, then they assume victim's mentality, in my opinion. Because you can make the same joke on a date, one lady will piss herself laughing, and the other one is gonna get offended. Now, was the joke offensive? Well, the joke wasn't anything. It was entirely up to her autonomous interpretation of the words that came out of your mouth that then created an emotional reaction within her. Now, there are certain things where, if I were to take a shit right here, right now, I would say 99.9% of society would agree that's not okay. There's probably 0.1% of weirdos who'd find that acceptable or okay. I personally wouldn't, that's why I wouldn't do it. So there are things that are objectively weird, objectively to the extent that 99% of people agree upon it, but most things, as Jack Kornfield says, to every opinion you have, there is another. So it's absolutely important that you allow yourself to be more radically honest, and thereby communicate like Moses and part the Red Sea. So when you're in a social context, you may find yourself losing interest in the wrong people. Why am I even here? Well, if you're not feeling it, if you're not excited, you're not around the right people. You need to have high quality male friendships. Men who are whatever values you're looking for. Ambitious, intelligent, kind, like an action taker, a doer. Somebody who doesn't make excuses, somebody who's genuinely interested in seeing you win. Whatever things you're looking for. You need to raise your standard and thereby be okay with most people not liking you. It's actually funny. There is an incredible level of freedom that comes from simply accepting that true authenticity will lead to some people loving you and a lot of people really disliking you. Because you won't feel that need to please everybody anymore. Now, let's shift to the next level, because you don't want to become the person who can't talk to somebody unless you're getting something out of it. If I can't imagine an intimate future with this woman, why would I even talk to her? If this guy is gonna become my new best friend, why would I even talk to him? Why would I even give him the time of day? And that can become quite limiting, because I want you to feel at home in the world. And to feel at home in the world, you need to be okay, and you need to actually feel connected to the people around you. But how can I do that if I have really high standards on the one hand? Well, the next paradigm of thinking, the next level of consciousness, a different mindset to adopt, in other words, if you don't want to view it in terms of a hierarchy, is, which I would encourage you to actually view it in terms of a hierarchy, because in my opinion, it's actually the next step, is yes, I will qualify hard as the first thing you need to do. You need to become more disagreeable, step into conflict, all of those things that we previously discussed. But then you want to shift above that and actually understand that niceness and kindness is the ultimate modus operandi. There's no better way to act in the world than being nice and kind, unless somebody fucks with you and then you set boundaries, of course. But then it's still an act of kindness towards yourself, and you don't need to do it in an aggressive or overly dominant way. But you still got to set the fucking boundary and not let people walk all over you. Jordan Peterson talks about the idea you got to be a monster, or have the potential for being a monster, but you want to be kind and you want to be tamed. Right? The person who doesn't fight anybody because he can't fight isn't virtuous. He's just weak. if you don't fight because you have the ability to. So for example, I'm not a professional fighter at all, and I'm not interested in violence whatsoever, but I did train martial arts for 6 years, 4 to 7 times a week. So I have a pretty good understanding. Like, I got some basics down, I would say. Karate and judo, most of it karate actually. So if you actually have a skill set and then you choose not to engage in violence, that's great. If you have the skill set to step into conflict and then you choose not to step into conflict, that is virtuous. So if you know you don't, but you can't skip that first level, right? If you know you don't have to be kind because you can't step into conflict and you don't give a fuck whether the wrong people don't like you or do like you, but then you still choose to be kind, not because you need anything, but just because in that moment when I'm with them, I want to make them feel good, I want to make them feel loved, because there's plenty of people who are dickheads in the world, and we've all done things that weren't too nice. We've all had flaws, right? So if you understand, I choose niceness, I choose kindness in most circumstances as my predominant mode of engaging with the world. After having gone through months, actually, for most of it, for some it's weeks, but for most of it is months, for some of it's going to be years, of stepping into conflict, of being disagreeable, of being masculine, of being polarizing, then you experience true freedom and connectedness. The first level is going to get you freedom, the second level is going to give you connectedness. You need to have that freedom to truly be yourself and to not crave the wrong woman's approval, any woman's approval for that matter, any person's approval. Now, the people who know you the best, they should agree that you are actually a kind person, that you're a good person. But beyond that, you shouldn't really let their thoughts or their judgments dictate your actions. So, coming back full circle, in the beginning it is natural that you will lose interest in most people. But then what's going to happen is when you become more selective, still say on the first level, you will actually get true joy and exhilaration and aliveness out of the relationships. Let me tell you something, having a relationship with a woman who you're really aligned with, who's beautiful inside out, and you're on the same team, and it's easygoing, person's physically attractive, you share the same values, there's none of these unnecessary arguments. Yeah, every now and then there's something that comes up, but it gets resolved much quicker because both people have high self-esteem, there's no toxicity. It's a beautiful experience and it makes you feel alive and it makes you feel truly happy. And with male friends, it's also one of the greatest sources of joy. Isn't one of the greatest sources of joy just talking shit with your friends, being absolutely ridiculous? I mean, what are you going to do with male friends? You're going to talk about business, you're going to go meet women, you're going to go do sports, and you're literally just going to hang out and talk shit. All these absolutely contribute to your sense of happiness, and it is one of the most underestimated sources of joy in our society these days. There's a huge focus on money, and look, if you're a man with a busy career, your own business, you're doing well already, or let's say you at least get your health handled, right? You get this one, like let's say you get the finances down for the sake of the argument. You realize that in the beginning it's very exciting, but once you've gotten used to a certain standard, that's not really where most of the excitement is going to come from in your life. Most of the excitement is going to come from using that money and spending it on a trip with your woman, on experiences with friendships, with relationships and experiences, and a flow-like mode of being that you can temporarily enter into if you do something you actually truly enjoy is really what it's all about. So one, I would encourage you to step into constructive conflict, set boundaries, become more disagreeable. Number two, then, but you cannot skip that first step. You cannot skip that first step. Then you go into, wow, kindness and niceness, and I want to treat people in a nice and kind way. What? Jesus Christ. While still setting boundaries and while still respecting yourself. If you do that, you'll experience true freedom and joy and connectedness at the same time. So if you want me to help you personally find the right girlfriend, life partner, or wife, I've done so successfully with men from 30 countries and helped them, as I said, find an amazing woman, get a better dating and social life in general, meet more and find high quality male friendships. Apply for a free initial consultation call. During that call, we're going to take a look at your individual situation. We're going to sit down, map out a plan based on your individual challenges and goals, and we'll shoot you to the moon and create that greatest source of happiness, or boost that greatest source of happiness in your life so you can find a woman, a wife, somebody to settle down with, somebody to do, maybe if you don't want to settle down, you just want to travel life and have amazing experiences. Whatever it is you want, click that button below the video, apply for a free call. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Take care.